Now, it brings me to one thought. That's a lot of time also, it's not just about the budgetary allocation. The money budgeted, released to the various armed forces, do they get to the personnel, the men on the field? Because sometimes we hear them come up and say, look, the morale is low. What is due when we are at the forefront does not get to us. And those are areas we ought to take a serious look at. And let me also relate this to it. The Armed Forces Remembrance Day, the donations, or the contributions that goes into it. How is this fund administered? I think we need to come to the public so the public will understand these monies that come in every year, how it is administered.
Okay, so for the military, even looking at the allocation, the starting point is how much of this allocation is ultimately released to the military. We see the budgetary allocation, but I assure you that it's not everything, at least from my experience while I was the Chief of Logistics of the Nigerian Air Force. We struggled to get releases from the allocation. But having said that, to ensure that people that are put at the leadership of this VM to account for it. And I think if this is done, and I think there's a draft bill in that regard also, I think it's necessary because as a veteran, though just about 2 years on it, I have never felt the impact of the Nigerian Legion. And sometimes I wonder, what does the Nigerian Legion do? Does the Nigerian Legion have an accurate database of all veterans?
And their families.
And their families.
So what do the veterans and also those in active service do to keep hope alive? Because with the story you're narrating, it's quite demoralizing. How do you, strengthen the mindset of your men in boots? Okay, so the truth is, in the service, I need to mention that members of the Armed Forces of Nigeria are some of the most disciplined in the world. And I say that without any fear of contradiction. I remember while I was serving in Liberia, there was a day we were going with the late Forde Sanko also on an aircraft, and there was one British veteran on board, and he saw my uniform, and he was astounded. He said, "You go into battle like this?" Because there are several things that he would have expected me to have on me. And I was just like the average Nigerian soldier, but Nigerian soldiers will still go ahead to fight. And some of these things, many citizens are not aware of. So, and that's why I said that whatsoever it is that can be done to alleviate the lot of the military will always be the best. And so, while in the military, you always have to encourage the personnel, tell them that, look, it's about the nation. It's not about yourself. But for how long can we continue this? For the veterans, I know looking forward, one of the things I said, and I think I should also say this to those who are still serving. I looked ahead and I saw that, look, many veterans, their lifestyles are not things to be desired, even though it shouldn't be the case. So, and one of the things I realized was that there was a need for adequate preparation for retirement. Exactly. I looked at, and the preparation that most people think about is preparing in terms of financial adequacy. But beyond that, look at psychological preparation. Psychological preparation in the sense that
once you are not in the military, you are no longer in the military. It is a reality. I am a retired 2-star general. I am not a 2-star general. So it means certain expectations that I had, I will no longer get. I could call on the captain, a major, a squadron leader, and they will ignore my calls now. So I prepared my mind for that, because if you don't, you could get frustrated, it could affect your mental health. Another type of preparation is about you creating a life of purpose. I believe the human being was made to be purposeful. So which means every day of your life, you must wake up being ready or aspiring to do something. So which means beyond waiting for your pension, you need to also create a form of employment, so that when you wake up in the morning, you have to solve a problem, you have to administer something, so that gives you purpose. And then the last one is creating an alternative source of revenue. And that brings me to talking about the pension that we currently receive. I'll let you know that the amount that I receive as pension today was what was being paid 6-7 years ago. The same amount.
The same
no
amount.
increment.
No increment.
No harmonization.
You know, the reality is this: everything is based on what has, and the pensions board that we have today does a lot in terms of regular payment of pension. At least since I've been retired, every month I've always got my pension at date. But it's about the same amount. But between then and now, we know what has happened with inflation. You know, fuel-wise, you know, electricity tariffs, food, virtually everything. So, what should be done? There should also be a review of pension to veterans to reflect current realities.
Is there some sort of association of maybe military veterans that you people can, you know, gather yourselves together and put out your complaints so that it gets to the right quarters and, you know, the right thing is done?
No, ordinarily, the Nigerian Legion was established to cater for the welfare of veterans and their families. But apparently, it has failed in that duty. And for me, sadly, what I've seen is that we have a proliferation of veterans associations. There are quite a number of veterans associations now. You know, One-Star Veteran Association, Concerned Veterans, there's so several. It shouldn't be. But apparently, I think there's a lot of support for that Veterans Federation of Nigeria. I would prefer that we have a single united umbrella body where all issues can be channeled and treated appropriately.
Okay, Evian, let's look at this harmonized terms and conditions of service, the one recently signed by Mr. President in December. From the look, it's like a provision for the generals. How about other officers and men post-service? What are those reviewed benefits the government is putting in place so that while you're in service, you're so sure that even when I leave, my retirement is taken care of? One is just signed for the generals. How about others? Is this something that can also be advocated for?
Okay, we have the harmonized terms and conditions of service, one for officers and one for airmen. When I joined the military, I met it like that. So there's always been one, and it's regularly reviewed. So what just happened recently was a review of both. Unfortunately, I've not laid my eyes on the one for the men, but for the one for the officers, what happened was that there are certain additional benefits which had always been there for former service chiefs, 2-star generals and 1-star generals. I think that has now been reviewed to go down to lieutenant colonels. Okay, so something about provision of a car or something like that. So that happens. With the men, I'm not exactly sure what's been done, but from the inquiries I've made, I am not aware that anything like that has been done for the men. But I also know that the most senior order rank is in the Army, in the Air Force, we call it Air Warrant Officer. Army says Army Warrant Officer. So I know when they are retiring, they go on with a Hilux or something like that. But be that as it may, there is a general provision for all retired personnel, and that is basically your pension. And